Hello, everybody, and welcome to the You're Off the Case NHL Playoff Preview Show. It's that time of year again for the National Hockey League playoffs. We'll try to take you through each of the 8 first-round series, and we'll kick things off, as we always do, Jamie, with the first-round matchup between the New York Rangers and the Ottawa Senators in the Eastern Conference. And, Jamie, I think Ottawa's in tough against a very strong New York team with a very strong goaltender who's one of the top contenders for both the Hart Trophy and the Vezina Trophy in Henrik Lundqvist, and also a very well-coached team, John Tortorella, the head coach of the New York Rangers. But I think the key for the Rangers is to make sure that their top line of Marian Gaborik, Brad Richards, and Ryan Callahan, make sure that they're the guys that are going to score their goals for them, but also that they need to keep their emotions in check.
Yes, for sure. The Rangers need Gaborik and also Brad Richards to be their top players in this one. But they need to think defense first. They're playing against a high-powered Ottawa offense, led the charge by guys like Spezza, McCulloch, and Carlson. And only Gaborik had more than 30 goals for the Rangers. And the Rangers also need Henrik Lundqvist to be their best player. He is the face of that franchise, and he needs to be so in this series against the Senators.
And you mentioned that high-powered Ottawa offense. It's also an offense that has a significant amount of depth outside of just that Spezza and McCulloch and Alfredson trio at the top. They also have Kyle Terrace. Colin Greening has had a great year, and as well as Eric Condra, not to mention all the points that Erik Karlsson has put up from the blue line, and Sergei Gonchar, not to be forgotten as an offensive threat from the blue line as well for the Senators as well. But I think one of the big factors in this series is definitely going to come down to goaltending, whether or not the Senators can beat Henrik Lundqvist, but also whether or not Craig Anderson can stand on his head for the Senators, Jamie.
Yes, that is the biggest key for Ottawa. They need Craig Anderson, or if he gets hurt, Ben Bishop, to play simply outstanding and to be on par with King Henrik. But Ottawa will win with offense. They are an offense-first team with Carlson, Spezza. You look at their back end, they have guys like Gonchar and Kuba, Matt Gilroy. They are guys who are good puck movers and are still working on their defensive game. And the Senators also need their veterans to step up, guys who have been to the finals like Alfredson, Phillips, and Chris Neal. Also, they have Sergei Gonchar, who won that cup in Pittsburgh. They have that advantage over the Rangers. As for the prediction, my prediction is the New York Rangers in 6 games.
Yeah, Jamie, I'll agree with you on that one. Despite the Senators winning the season series 3-1, I say the Rangers are too strong for the Sens, and they'll take it in 6 games. Game 1 goes Thursday night at Madison Square Garden in New York. Moving along to Series B, the Boston Bruins, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, taking on the number 7 Washington Capitals. And for the Bruins, Jamie, one of the most physical teams in the NHL, they need to continue that play, and their offense will come as a result. The Caps, not a physical team. They don't really like to play that type of game. And in my mind, the Boston Bruins don't have a whole lot of pressure on them, as the pressure is on everybody else to knock them off as the defending Stanley Cup champions.
Yes, for Boston, they need to bring their physical presence. They have big, strong players. They need to use that presence, that physicalness, to shut down Alexander Ovechkin. He is going to be the key for the Washington Capitals. But the biggest key for Boston will be Tim Thomas, and can he duplicate his outstanding playoffs of last year? If he can do so, I think Boston has a chance to not only win this series, but to go deep in the playoffs. As for the Capitals, they need Ovechkin, Semin, and Backstrom to step up their game and get back to why Washington won their division for so many years in a row, and they don't compete hit for hit with the Bruins. They are not as physical, not as big, and also their goaltending situation is a huge question right now.
Yeah, Braden Holtby is going to have to absolutely stand on his head for the Caps at all to have a chance with both Thomas Vokoun and Michael Neuvirth out for the first round at the very least for the Washington Capitals. But also, the Caps are going to have to try and keep their top players of Alex Ovechkin and Alex Semin away from Zdeno Chara. Not going to be the easiest thing for them. Jamie, I'm going to take this physical Boston team in 5 games over Washington.
I think combined with the physical presence, the fact that Boston's looking to repeat, and the goaltending woes in Washington, I don't think they can win a game. Boston in 4 with the sweep. And we're going to look at the 3rd series in the Eastern Conference. 3rd seed Florida Panthers taking on the 6th seed New Jersey Devils. Now, Florida has home ice, but they finished with fewer points than New Jersey. For Florida to win, they need depth in scoring, not just their big line of Versteeg, Weiss, and Fleischmann. And they need to shut down Kovalchuk, Parise, and Elias, who are the big scorers for New Jersey. And for depth scoring, they need a guy like Sean Bergenheim to step up and play like he did last year.
For me, Jamie, the biggest thing for the Florida Panthers is don't fall into that trap that the New Jersey Devils like to play. It's not to the same extent that it used to be played in the late 1990s, but still very much one of their defensive ploys that they use. But also for the New Jersey Devils, they need to shut down that big three that you talked about of Fleischmann, Versteeg, and Stephen Weiss. And also they need their strong defense and strong play from Martin Brodeur, and they need the goaltender of old that Martin Brodeur has proven that shows why he will be a future Hall of Famer. They also had the best penalty kill in the regular season, so the New Jersey Devils definitely have that in their back pocket, and for that reason I'm going to take New Jersey Devils in 6 games. They finished 8 points ahead of a Florida team that gained 18 points off of overtime and shootout losses.
Yes, as you said, they need to shut down the big 3 forwards for Florida. They also need vintage Marty Brodeur to come out. They need him to play like he has in the past and show why he's going to have a future Hall of Fame career. And if he doesn't have the best series, they also have another veteran goalie in Johan Hedberg who can take the helm there. And they also need to just keep using that defensive system that is boring to watch but oh so effective on the ice. And just like you, I'm predicting New Jersey to take this one in 6 games.
Shifting our focus now to one of the most anticipated series of the first round, as the number 4 seed Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the number 5 Philadelphia Flyers in the Battle of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia won the season series 4-2, and Jamie, this series is very much being anticipated as a physical one, and both teams are going to have to play that way in order to be successful.
Yes, both teams are going to have to bring a physical presence to the ice, but both will have to stay disciplined and refrain from guys getting suspended or kicked out of the game. For Pittsburgh, they need to thrive on their offense. They have Crosby back, and Malkin's line has been simply outstanding through the regular season. They need to continue that, and they need that Marc-Andre Fleury in his form that won them the Stanley Cup in 2009, and they also need the physical presence of guys like Englund, Asham, and Orpik to balance out the guys like Crosby, Malkin, and James Neal for Pittsburgh to be successful.
And I think one of the biggest question marks for the Philadelphia Flyers is their goaltending, and which Ilya Bryzgalov is going to show up. Is it going to be the player that really struggled heading into that Winter Classic and before Christmas time, or is it going to be the player that's been absolutely amazing down the stretch here for Philadelphia and has given them a chance almost to get home ice advantage heading into the playoffs? But as you said, Philadelphia definitely needs to be smart, stay disciplined, because that Pittsburgh power play will burn them, despite them having the same power play as Pittsburgh, but nonetheless still the top 5 power play in the league for the Penguins. And I'm going to take the Penguins in 6 games, even though this series is as tight as it is.
Yes, for the Flyers, they need their D to step up without Chris Pronger, as they have throughout the regular season, and they need guys, their leaders, Giroux and Briere and Yager, to show the way for the rookies. They have a lot of rookies on this team, starting with Shen and Matt Reed, and like you said, I think the biggest difference is going to be the goaltending. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in 7.
Shifting now to the Western Conference, the first seed Vancouver Canucks will take on the Los Angeles Kings, the second of 2 Canadian teams to make the playoffs in the 2012 Stanley Cup playoffs. They tied the season series at 2, and for Vancouver, Jamie, they're going to have to use that offense to overpower LA, who likes to play low-scoring games.
Yes, Vancouver's going to need to use their depth, and LA was one of the lowest scoring teams in the regular season, so if Vancouver can overpower them with offense, they will be able to win this series. Vancouver also needs some consistent goaltending. Roberto Luongo was up and down last year in the playoffs, especially in the final against Boston, where he gave up 12 goals in the 2 games, in games 3 and 4. For LA, they need Jonathan Quick to simply stand on his head and steal them the series. They also need to be physical and get net traffic to Roberto Luongo.
Did we mention Jonathan Quick? Because he's the absolute key for the Los Angeles Kings. He's going to be the reason that the Kings win the series if they are able to. The Kings absolutely have to stay out of a track meet style game with the Vancouver Canucks. They don't have the offense to do so, so they need to keep those games low scoring and use their defense to win. I think they have the ability to do that against the Vancouver Canucks despite being the 8th seed, so I'm going to take the Kings in 7 games, stealing a game from the Vancouver Canucks on home ice.
I think Vancouver is simply too good, and they're going to win this in 5 games. And now we're going to look at the St. Louis Blues against the San Jose Sharks, the 2-7 here. And for St. Louis, it comes down to their goaltending and their defense. It doesn't matter if Elliott or Halak starts. They have simply both been outstanding this year. But St. Louis needs to make sure they keep low-scoring games. They have no 30-goal scorers on that team, but they do have the lowest goals against in the regular season. They need to look to continue that through the playoffs against San Jose.
Yeah, as you said, Jamie, they need to be able to score a few goals. They can't rely simply on Brian Elliott and Yaroslav Halak, probably one of the better goaltending duels heading into the playoffs this year. They did give up the fewest goals against in the regular season in the National Hockey League, so they need to keep on that strength so far. And listen to Ken Hitchcock. He's clearly a proven winner in the National Hockey League. He's a reason he's a contender for the Jack Adams Trophy this year. So definitely follow what Hitch says there. And as for the San Jose Sharks, I don't know if they should be using their past years as motivation, or at least as experience, but perhaps as motivation in the sense that they were not able to succeed and learn from those experiences. They definitely need Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau to produce, as well as Antti Niemi to play like the Stanley Cup winner he was in 2010.
Yes, their key is going to be for Antti Niemi to find that form he had with the Blackhawks, and also last year making it to the conference finals, and they need their big playoff performers to come through as their depth guys. Joe Pavelski, Ryan Clough, and Logan Couture have been outstanding in the past, and for the Sharks to succeed, they need that to happen. However, I'm predicting the Blues to win this one in 5 games.
And just like they did in the regular season, Jamie, I'm going to take the Blues to sweep the Sharks in 4 straight. Game 1 goes Thursday night. Moving along to the 3rd versus 6th series, the Phoenix Coyotes taking on the Chicago Blackhawks in one of the strangest series to go in the Western Conference. Phoenix going to need Shane Doan and Ray Whitney to lead them, as well as they'll need the continued strong play of Mike Smith, who has had an outstanding year for the Coyotes. And Chicago just simply use that experience and offensive depth that they've gained over the past few years, but they'll also need some strong goaltending from Corey Crawford, who was there as a backup for the Cup win in 2010, but hasn't had the experience himself, and that'll take that Chicago experience, Jamie, in 5 games over this inexperienced Coyotes team.
Yes, the biggest factor for the Blackhawks is they need that Corey Crawford that showed up in the Vancouver series, losing in overtime in 7 games last year. I think Chicago is going to overpower Phoenix in 6 games. Now we're going to move on to the most anticipated series, the 4 vs. 5 Nashville-Detroit. Both teams were square with 48 wins, and for Nashville, they need their stars, Pekka Rinne, Shea Weber, and Ryan Suter to lead the charge and keep the games low scoring, and they need to win at home, and they had the best power play in the regular season at 21.6%. As for Detroit, they need to use experience. Nashville only has 1 series victory ever. Detroit hasn't missed the playoffs in the last 21 years, and they need to keep discipline. As I said, Nashville had the best power play. The Wings' penalty kill was 18th, and they need their offensive stars to beat Nashville's defensive stars. My prediction, the Red Wings are going to take this in 7 games.
And I think it'll all come down to home ice in this series. Jamie, Nashville absolutely has to win at home. Detroit, unbelievable at the Joe Louis Arena. So if Nashville can win all 4 games at home, then obviously they would win the series. But that's going to be the difference in this one. And I'm going to take Nashville just to be the opposite of you. I'm going to take Nashville in 7 games because I really think this series could be decided by a coin flip. These teams are absolutely so close. The only difference between the 2 teams in points was that Nashville lost 2 games in overtime. Same number of wins. If you've seen the 2 teams play against each other this year, absolutely amazing how close they were.
Very true.